Memphis police officers charged in the death of Tyree Nichols will be in court for the first time this morning.
They put up this tape to block the apartment building. They also boarded up the walkway.
I've got my Grizz gear, and they're giving out things just like this for free. The First Lady's plane landed just minutes ago. She's now on her way to St. Jude.
Amir Strickland, I have to ask, a lot of people are wondering about the timing of the video. Why after 6 on a Friday night in Memphis?
This morning, the I-55 bridge, it's back open after being at a standstill for hours last night. I didn't ask for Kevin up here as my little co-star.
Oh, whatever. not you trying to
The
crack
great
jokes.
value,
Okay.
Kevin. Not Trevor saying the great value, Kevin. All right, what you got, Jordan?
So Trevor and me, we should not be on each other's charades team.
No.
Well, there has been a significant development in who could be eligible to run as Memphis mayor later this. Just watching the initial court hearing for those 5 fired officers. Out of it, you heard the judge say that this case will take some time. This morning, if railroad crossings in Germantown are also part of your morning commute, then listen up. During last night's storms, a lot of them just stopped working. Let's get to that toxic train disaster in Ohio. A lot of people who live there now demanding independent testing of the water and soil there. Breaking overnight, 3 people are dead and 5 more are hurt after a shooting at Michigan State University. We have lived through some tough weeks here in Memphis, and surely more tough days are ahead. What do you see as a role of the faith community in these days coming forward?
He hit several cars in this apartment complex, including this classic Ford. You can see where the paint is still chipped.
Definitely deserve that quiet pattern, Trevor. Thank you. And this is why we have new information this midday on last week's deadly tornado outbreak. By the end of the day, your TED Talk. Give it to me, girl. Right now, we are breaking into programming because the 5 officers charged in the death of Tyree Nichols are in court today. People started heading into that courtroom around 9 this morning, or taking a live look at it there. Now, a 6th officer involved in the initial traffic stop of Tyree Nichols is not in court today. Body camera footage shows Preston Hemphill using a taser on Nichols in that first encounter. In the video, you can hear Hemphill also saying he hopes the other officers stomp out Tyree. MPD fired Hemphill for violating at least 5 policies and protocols. They include personal conduct, truthfulness, compliance with regulations for his taser, compliance with regulations for his uniform and issued equipment, as well as mishandling recovered property. All right, now our Brittany Moncrief is live outside of the courtroom where you're seeing everybody walk in right now. Brittany, I have seen Attorney Crump, DA Steve Mulroy, the parents of Tyree Nichols, Rodney and Rovon Wells come into that courtroom. Who else are you seeing walk into the courtroom now? Brittany, thank you so much for that. We're going to listen into the courtroom because it does look like they are just getting started. So let's take a listen.
Everyone's best effort.
Again, you're just watching the initial court hearing for those 5 fired officers. Out of it, you heard the judge say that this case will take some time. In it, he is pushing back this court date until May 1st. That will be the next time that those 5 fired officers are going to be in a courtroom. But Brittany is outside of the courtroom. We're going to take a live look there so we can see what's happening outside of the courtroom. Well, you were just hearing from Blake Ballin. He is the attorney representing Desmond Mills. He is one of the 5 former officers now charged in the death of Tyree Nichols. He went on to say that his client pled not guilty. That's the first we're hearing of any pleas being made in this case. He also went on to say that he is hoping the public won't rush to judgment of his client, going on to say that his client is still a black man in America in a courtroom, and he is hoping that justice as well for Tyree Nichols will be served for his client as well. Again, the first time we actually got to see those 5 officers outside of that video that was released just 3 weeks ago today, the first time in the courtroom. That whole proceeding taking just about 5 minutes, really quick in the courtroom. Again, coming out of it, if you are just joining us, the next court date will be May 1st. We aren't sure how the other officers have pled in this case, but we do know that Desmond Mills is pleading not guilty in this case. You are taking a live look outside of that courtroom. But let's take a look at how we got to where we are today. Absolutely, Brittany. I know he was also saying, it was a little bit hard to hear as you were saying, but someone asked a very important question. He kept saying, my client did administer aid. He asked him if he could have air, but someone also asked, Did he have a responsibility to stop the other officers who were beating him? And he started to answer that. Can you tell us a little bit of what he was saying there, because it was kind of hard to hear? We have spent a lot of this morning talking about the officers, but I do know that we had that video of Tyre Nichols skateboarding. Can we get that up on screen? Let's take a moment to remember the person that unfortunately is no longer with us today. This is Tyre Nichols, just 29 years old.
Eryn?
All right, thank you, Brittany, for staying on top of this all morning long. Again, those 5 fired former officers in court about 2 hours ago, now all pleading not guilty to the death of Tyre Nichols. Again, their court date being pushed back to May 1st. That is the next time they will be in court on these charges that they're facing, including second-degree murder. That is all for our special report of this court hearing. Again, we will have the updates later on at midday. And when I mean later on, in just about 20 minutes. So make sure you join us then. Walking in Memphis
This is terrible.
isn't as effortless for some. In fact, getting around downtown can be downright difficult.
And I was coming down here, and we get here, and I was like, yeah, I can't get around it without taking the risk of falling.
Fletcher Cleaves told me he noticed this specific issue more than a year ago.
I would have to have turned all the way around and go down to the next apartment complex and hit the curb cut and then come back up the side of the street. It's a risk, you know? So if I were to, like I said, I could probably do it, but it's just an unnecessary risk that, I'm like, why is this in the middle of the curb cut? Like, I couldn't do it by myself if I wanted to.
He's made calls to the city, but says this is just one issue he's seen on Memphis sidewalks.
Just the terrain is out of control. Holes, tree trunks rooting up the sidewalk. It's just anything you can think of, missing pieces.
Just like this. It's been a rocky path for the last 13 years. That's how long he's been paralyzed after being hit by someone texting and driving.
And then I hit a guardrail and flipped into an embankment and broke my neck in 2 places.
His view is different now. He says he sees his city growing, but he wants his city to see a community that often gets overlooked.
We're trying to grow as a city. We're trying to bring tourists in and people from all different types of walks of life or roles of life, so to speak. Just understand that the bare minimum won't cut it.
So the Downtown Memphis Commission is trying to do more.
Looking at ways to enhance mobility connections in our transportation network. So what that means is, how do we take a very car-dependent city and open up options so that people don't necessarily have to get to and around downtown by a personal vehicle.
They started a one-to-one matching grant up to $5,000 for businesses to fix their sidewalks.
We've been walking around looking at sidewalks, taking pictures, and contacting the property owners where we see that there are broken sidewalks or maybe a missing sidewalk.
In Memphis, it is the property owner's responsibility to fix sidewalks like this one in front of AutoZone. The commission says fixing these issues can be expensive, so they want to help.
Our vision is a downtown for everyone, because we're able to plan ahead so that we can alleviate some of these issues before they get to be really bad.
But for people like Cleaves,
Can't make
Nope.
who have to either depend on other people
I think I'm actually stuck. Can you pull me, please?
or constantly maneuver,
I mean, it could be extra 20 minutes, extra 30 minutes, extra 40 minutes.
it's been a bumpy ride in the Bluff. The want may not be smooth, but it's simple.
All parts of life should be accessible, you know. With Memphis having a major international airport, why can't we have that same accessibility? Why do I need to maneuver my way around different situations versus just being able to go the same route somebody that can walk go?
That's my great-grandmother right there.
In Shelby County's oldest black cemetery,
1860, 1853.
dates marking a storied past of suffering.
When I walk through the cemetery, tears come down my eyes because I can feel the pain that my family has gone through over the years.
Through the crumbled concrete, there's one spot bare.
I'll probably put the tombstone probably in here.
Another date, April 28th, 1939.
He was lynched at the Wilson Feed Store in Arlington.
Ronald Morris is the nephew of Jesse Lee Bond. His uncle is buried just a few miles from where the then 20-year-old's life tragically ended
here at the S.Y. Wilson store.
Uncle Jesse had to come to the feed store as many sheriff corporals of that time came and got goods, and then they put it on a ledger, and then when the crops came in, they came in and paid. But Jesse wanted a receipt, and they didn't like giving out receipts to people of color because they would gyp them and cheat them. So what happened was Jesse demanded a receipt. The young Wilson was there, and eventually he got a receipt.
But that would prove a deadly ask.
Old man Wilson got angry. He said, go and get that person and bring him back here to me. When he came back, they began to shoot him and reel him to the outhouse. They took him, drug him, castrated him, and staked him out in the Hatchet River.
I think it was somewhere in this area.
John Ashworth works with the Lynching Sites Project of Memphis, documenting the horrific acts throughout Shelby County.
And we now know about 35 lynchings that occurred.
Bond is one of them.
So there are people still around to this day that are, that was 1939.
But still, not a lot of people now know what happened in the building that was once on this slab, or the rage that rested on the river.
We know who did it. They knew who did it. The sheriff knew who did it. Everybody knew who did it. They covered it up, and they say it was an accidental drowning. How can you have an accidental drowning and you got bruises and bullet holes all through your body?
In fact, in a Commercial Appeal article from January of 1940, the headline reads, 2 men, Charles Wilson and William Johnson, exonerated of murder charges for killing Bond, even saying, quote, no wounds or marks of violence were found on his body.
But this is an all-white jury in the early 1930s and early 40s. They weren't going to convict them.
While Jesse never got justice, there's some good coming out of sharing his story and others like him.
Is that we have created a space where people can have honest conversations about the past.
No matter how painful it can be.
It robbed me, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, from enjoying one of our uncles. That leaves a scar in your heart